In this tutorial, we'll configure a quick order entry page that is common for wholesale customers. We'll start on our storefront and we'll go down under Content and click on Pages. From the root page, we'll click the Add a Child Page icon. We're going to name this Quick Order Form. We'll give it a code, Quick Order Form. For the template, there's already a template underscore catalog underscore wholesale. We'll select that. If you want to restrict this page to only those customers who have a customer profile assigned a particular set of pricing tiers, you can check that right here under the permissions. We're going to go ahead and leave that off. Next, under items, we'll just select the default template underscore item, and then I'm going to go ahead and set automatically assign items based on conditions and then just pick 0 to $100. That'll give us a lot of items on this test account. We'll click Save and Preview. This will open up the standard template. It's displaying the image of the product, stock status, some details about the item, quantity, and allows the customer to enter quantity. At this point, let's look at doing some further customization of this order form to achieve a different look. So we'll go ahead and engage the visual editor using the edit button in the toolbar. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the hierarchy. We can see here the item list on the page, and so inside of this list a row is being generated for each of the items. I'm going to go ahead and start off by creating a new row above this one, and we're going to achieve a different look. So I'm going to do a 4-column row, and we'll go ahead and start off. We're going to name some of these columns. So I'm going to call this my image column, description column, price column, and the quantity column. And we'll go ahead and start off with all the columns being equal sized. We'll adjust that a little bit later. So let's go ahead and look at what we already have in this other row, and we're going to repurpose some of it. Alright, let's start with we have the item image, and this other layout did some wrapping and some other things. I'm just going to take the simple item image and go ahead and drag it up into the image column. When you drag, the blue dotted arrows are where it's going to land, and the parent element you can see is lit up in blue. So we'll go ahead and drag that up. Let's go ahead and we're going to get the item title. Drag that up to the description column. Now, this original layout supports item variations and things of that nature. We're going to go ahead and leave that off for this particular sample layout. I'm going to drag the price up, and then we're going to take the quantity. We'll fix that title real quick as well. I am going to take the item out of stock widget and add that back. This one was done in a overlay mode, so I'm just going to go ahead and re-add it back where I want it later. Okay, so here I have my row with 4 columns. I have the elements that I want. I'm going to start off by taking the item title and getting rid of some of the different colors. I'm going to get rid of the different colors that were assigned, as well as clean up the font and get rid of this border. Just kind of get it back to a standard look. I could have just chosen to simply delete the element and re-add it, but it never hurts to see how to clean up some settings. So we'll go back to our just a complete default state. Let's get rid of that bold. There we go. The next thing I want to do is work with the quantity box. So many customers are purchasing on mobile, it's really a good idea to turn on the plus and minus buttons for the quantity box. That'll help them to quickly um, decide how much they want and add it to the cart. Now I'm going to set a border on the row. So we'll go into the row element borders, 1 pixel on all sides, solid, and we'll just set let's pick a standard light gray. So now we have a nice border. I'm going to go ahead and shrink the item image itself. I've hovered over it, clicked on settings. I'm going to change the thumbnail down to just 80 characters. 80 pixels. Make it a little smaller. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of margin around each of the elements, and so we'll just go into each of the other elements, and we're going to put 10 pixels of margin on top of each one, so that when we go into a mobile view and they stack, they'll not be right on top of each other. So 10 pixels on the top, and since this is the last one, I'm also going to put it on the bottom. You may not see it here, but when we get into a mobile view, we will definitely notice that. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the column sizes. We really don't need this much. Let's keep the quantity at 3. We can take the price down to 2. We can take the image column down to 2, and we'll give those additional columns to the description. The next thing we're going to do is adjust the centering of each of these columns, and so I'm going to go ahead and set the alignment to center. On the description, we want it to center on mobile, but then be left justified on tablet. You'll see when we view this responsively. Our pricing, we're going to center on mobile and right align. And then for our quantity, let's go ahead and just center it all the time. Okay, let's go ahead and save this, and we'll go ahead and take a look at it. So we have the sticky footer down here, and what the customer can do is they can click the quantity and then add it to the cart. This item's out of stock. We'll address that in a second. So there we go, we're adding items to the cart. So let's do a few things with out of stock items to make it more understandable for the customer. The first thing we're going to do in the description column, we're going to add the item out of stock element below, so that if the item is out of stock, we want to display that verbiage. We also want to just completely remove the quantity input when it's out of stock, and so what we can do is we can go to the item quantity and we can wrap that element, and we're going to use the hide if element. And for the hide if condition, we're going to use the item out of stock. So when the item's out of stock, we want to hide that. We can also change the color of the text as well. So we'll just go ahead and set that to a red color. And if it's out of stock, we should end up with a red. Oops. 1 second. Oh, I set an overlay color. We're not working in overlay mode. There we go. It would actually make more sense to move the out of stock into the place of the quantity. So let's go ahead and show how to move that. So we'll just drag the item out of stock, and we're going to put it right there in the quantity column. There we go. It does need a little bit of margin on the top, just like the other elements received. So we will set 10 pixels of margin. Okay, so now the customer knows that it's out of stock. What we'll do is we'll also add a header row above this so that they understand that we have the quantity. But before we do that, let's go ahead and look at the layout by opening our developer tools and going into a mobile view. Mobile customer can simply click the plus, click add to cart. They can also remove items and keep going. So final step, let's go ahead and put a header in. So we have a row, 2 columns, 5 columns, 2 columns, 3. So above the item list, row, and then we'll set these widths, and let's go ahead and do a background. So we'll do a background color dark gray. We'll go ahead and adjust each of these columns. Oops, there we go. Inside each of these, we can add an element. So I'll just use a headline. And we can double click and just change it. So it calls product, price, also right aligning it, quantity, all right, let's make this left aligned. We have a little bit of difference between our table here and the new title row that we added. So we'll go into the item list, and under column padding it has a default of 10 on each side. We'll go ahead and set that to 0. And on the margin, we have a little bit on the top. We'll leave that. That's fine. Okay, that's going to do it for this tutorial video on how to add a quick order form.